Hey guys, welcome to Herding Little Cows. This is the start of our frugal spend week. So $75 for our family of 9 for the entire week. So today we're making oatmeal. So first we're going to do 4 cups of oats. We're measuring in our mason jar because that's the easiest way to measure if she does it without spilling. Do the 2 cup mark. Is that 2 cups?
Yeah.
Nope. No? Yeah. So it's going to be 4 cups of oats. Go ahead, pour it in.
Yeah.
This was all bought at that Wal-Mart pickup. All of these ingredients. Is that 2 cups?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a total of 4 cups of oats. Good job.
And I bought this.
You want to pour the milk in?
Yeah.
Okay.
He always wants.
I'm going to help you so we don't spill.
Up to.
Okay, you put that in the pot. So we're putting in 4 cups of milk. You can make oatmeal with just water, but we found our family does not like oatmeal made with just water. So we do half and half milk and water. So that was 4 cups of milk. Can you put the top back on for me?
Yeah.
This is real life cooking in our kitchen Sundays because we want to be able to use the day to go to church, meet with other believers, spend the day teaching our kids about God. We don't do our chores on Sundays. So you'll see there's a bunch of dishes left over from Sunday. We had guests over yesterday who joined us. We had food in the crock pot. We had food in the crock pot, and we had food that we just warmed up on the stove, and we had a very nice lunch with them. So, this is your sister's turn. I don't know why we have 2 measuring cups in here, but we do. We will get rid of one of those.
I think I know why.
We're going to add a half a cup of sugar, so I need 2. This is a 1/4 cup measure, so we need 2 of those.
And
Nope.
yeah.
Remember, if you took the bucket a little bit. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. 1, 2.
Thank you. Now we need a pinch of
Oh!
fingers in. And get a pinch and good. Uriah, can you mix this all up for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as we go through the week, you're going to see our pantry supplies dwindle. So, this is our milk to go in coffee for the rest of the week. Don't drink too much, Mark.
I'll try not to.
Here's what we have for oatmeal going on as the week progresses. Here's sugar. We're going to have lots of that left over. Salt was not included in the $75 total because I figured people probably had salt in the house. You can get the amount of salt you would need for the week for less than $1. So that would have added possibly $1 to $1 for salt and pepper for the week. So we are going to cook this on medium-high on the stove, and you will see a picture at the end of this of how we serve it. Okay, so the oatmeal is done. So it's been cooking on medium heat, and you can cook it to whatever consistency you like. This is how we cook it. And so this is the 4 cups of oats, 4 cups of water, 4 cups of milk, pinch of salt, and a half a cup of sugar. You may like more or less sugar, but the ratios work out that you want twice as much liquid as you have oatmeal. So if you're making 1 cup of oats, you'd want 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of water. You could do all water, you could do all milk. So this is one of the bowls of oatmeal. The kids can top it with cinnamon, which is at the table. They all like this amount of sugar, but if you wanted, you could let people have more sugar at the table too. So that's our first meal on this $75 a week. Hey guys, so in the last part of the video you saw we had made oatmeal. We did 4 cups of oatmeal to 8 cups of liquid, and from what I'm seeing, that makes about 1 cup of food per person for the people we were feeding. So everybody had 1 cup of oatmeal this morning. Everybody enjoyed it. And now we are on to making lunch. This was a 10-pound bag of Perdue chicken leg quarters. And all I'm doing is putting them in my roaster. You could do this in the oven. And I'm just putting some, ooh, I'm gonna have to wash that. I don't wanna cook it. Putting some pepper. And we're gonna put some salt. That's all that is going into the chicken. We're baking it for lunch. So we will serve this, and I will make stock out of the bones and stuff that are left. So I will show you what that looks like when it is done cooking. So we are making Brazilian beans for dinner. I soaked the beans last night, and I will show you the rest of that process, but this knife is not very sharp, so I'm doing another one. You will see, I haven't been home in a while, so I haven't used my knives recently. There we go. So this onion does not look very good. I'm being very truthful in what I'm sharing here. So I have to take off some layers. See if the inside's good. The inside looks good of this onion, but the outside layers did not. So it's just how it is. This is what we have for onion today. I've got more in the cupboard, but I'm going to need them for other recipes. So this recipe is not very specific. I am taking a recipe that I learned from a Brazilian young man we were with on the trip and making it my own for this low spend week. So see if the inside of the onion is okay. Looks good. So I'm going to chop an onion. I'm going to add some garlic. I'm going to cut up some of this kielbasa. The recipe that he showed me also has bacon in it, which bacon makes everything better. Bacon is expensive. So this is going to go in the beans that we soaked last night. These are just rough cut. You're going to have chunks of onion in your food, but it will be cooked onion because we will cook it and then it will cook all day with the beans. This recipe is great to give the beans a lot of flavor, and beans are great because you can use them, put them in the crock pot and kind of not think about them all day, and they're ready for dinner time. So onions have a lot of flavor. They add a lot to any meal that you're going to make. We're going to add garlic, which has not been opened yet. Again, this is all stuff I bought for this challenge, so this is the first day we're using this stuff and not measuring, just throwing in some garlic. And then we're also going to cut the kielbasa. We are making Brazilian beans 3 times during this challenge. So this recipe would be good with a lot more meat. I had washed my counters before I did this. This recipe would be good with a lot more meat, but I'm going to use about 1/3 for today's meal, and we will do 1/3 for another meal and 1/3 for a meal after that. When we made it with this young man, we made much bigger slices of kielbasa, but because I want it to flavor the pot more, I'm going to cut it smaller. That is a tip for being able to make the meat spread, whether it be in soup or casserole or anything, is the smaller you cut the pieces, you will get meat in more bites, and it makes you feel like you're using a lot less meat. I mean, a lot more meat than you are using. So when we did it there, we just cut it in rounds. But like I said, I wanted to spread more. So I like to cut my meat on a plate that I feel I can get more thoroughly clean. I know you can use a cutting board and clean it, but I choose to keep my cutting boards for my veggies and use my plates for my meat. So this is now all going to be cooked together on the stove. So we put this onto the stove that we had cut up. We're going to add about 1 tablespoon of oil. You don't have to measure, but a little bit of oil so that this has something to cook in. And we turned it on to medium high, I would say. I'll turn it down once it starts to get up to temperature. I don't need that anymore. So last night we started soaking the beans. You saw me sort through them and put them into the crock pot. It sat in the crock pot. The crock pot is still currently off. I've done nothing to these beans but soak them overnight. So this is what the beans look like. You could start them in this water in like cooking, but if you drain off this water, there are less problems with the gas that beans create. If you think that your family has a problem eating beans, some people feel because of intestinal issues that their family can't handle beans. And actually the cure for that is to serve more beans, because it takes your body a little bit of time to figure out how to process the beans correctly. I'm not saying nobody has problems with beans, but people who say that it gives them gas and those types of things, usually it's because they don't eat a lot of beans. So when they do eat them, their body doesn't know what to do. Our family can eat beans multiple times a week and not have a problem with it. So, because we eat beans regularly. So these beans, this is how I do it because I don't want to wash the colander and everything. I take the top and I hold it back a little bit and I dump the water into the sink. Just drain off that water that was used for the soaking. So this was a 2-pound bag of beans. That's how much beans I have left. I'm going to add some water to cover them. Because I'm home today and I have not made these beans in a crock pot, when we made these beans down in Florida with a friend, I'm just mixing this. When we made these Brazilian beans in Florida, we made them in an Instant Pot. And I don't have an Instant Pot, I didn't know how to use it, so she had looked up the timing, she had done all of the stuff that goes with that, how much water to add. For me, I'm doing how I make the beans for my regular recipes. So I have the beans covered, and I'm going to check them throughout the day to see if they need more water. I will let you know for the next time how much water I will add to these beans. I'm going to turn these on high. Right now, there's no other seasoning that's going to go in until this stuff is cooked. So we will cook this stuff and then show you what it looks like when we add it. Okay, so you saw me cut all of this up and put it on the stove. I cooked it at medium-high. Medium-high, you have to look at what your own stove does, but we're gonna add these and all the juice and everything that came with them to the beans. So, let's do it the other way. So all I'm gonna do is scoop this in here. Probably everyone else can do this a little more gracefully than me, but I don't have a whole lot of strength in my hands. So if you see anything, I was talking about this with a friend. If you see anything on my videos that I can do, such as cut up a pineapple, it must not take a whole lot of effort to do it because I have very weak hands because I have a form of muscular dystrophy. And so if you see me do it and you think, oh, I couldn't do it, I'm not that strong, you can do it. So all I'm gonna do is mix these onions and garlic and kielbasa into the beans. Put the top back on. Like I said before, this is set to high. And then the chicken that you saw me put in here with the salt and pepper is set at 375. This is the first time using this, so I'm assuming that it's the right temperature. My old roaster died right before we went on vacation, so this is the first time I've used this one. I'm assuming that it cooks at a genuine 375, but again, if you're new to cooking, know that your stove, your oven, your crock pot and everything could be slightly off from what the manufacturers say. So just be aware that your oven may cook hotter and faster than what the thing says. So if it says check in 10 to 12 minutes and you're using a new oven, probably check in 8 or 9. Just make sure that it's not going to overcook in your oven. On the other end, your oven might cook slower and it might need 15 minutes for something that says 10 or 12. So you'll have to figure that out on your own. I will show you what these things look like when they're done cooking, how I assess that they're done at the end. But supper is going, don't have to do anything till supper time. Lunch is going, won't have to do anything till I pick the chicken after it's done cooking. So see you in a little bit. Okay, so we last left the kitchen when I put the stuff into the kielbasa and onions and things into the beans. and I went and did school with kids, and now I've come back. So I'm using my meat thermometer to check my chicken. You do not have to have a meat thermometer. You can also see if the liquid that comes out of the chicken when you cut it is clear. That's another way to figure it out. And once you put the meat thermometer in, you have to let it sit for a little bit so that it can get to the right temperature. It doesn't immediately get to the temperature, so you have to let it sit, watch for the needle, I'm gonna say spinner, to wait for the needle to get to the temperature to see if it's cooked. For poultry, it is supposed to be 170 degrees, and my chicken is not quite up to that temperature yet, so I'm going to close the roaster, increase the temperature just a little. Like I said, this is my first time using this roaster, so I'm going to go up to 400. I had it at 375, and I will wash this because the meat is not cooked, but I will do that after I'm done with the next step. I have 8 cups of water, if you remember, 8 cups of water in here boiling for rice. I don't know if this is the proper way to make rice, but this is how I make rice. I get the water to a boil, I add my rice, I wait till it gets to another boil, and then I turn the temperature off and I let it sit. I don't burn rice that way. It sits for about 25 minutes and then it is ready to eat. I use twice as much water as I'm going to use rice, so I used 8 cups of water. I'm going to put in 4 cups of rice. So right now that's waiting to get to a boil. Now I'm making cooked carrots to go with our lunch, the chicken that we're going to eat, and I'm taking the ends off my carrots and putting them in this bowl because this is going to be the vegetables that are going to go in the chicken broth in a little bit. Because we're doing this low spend week, I'm trying to use every piece of the carrots and things. Normally, because I'm in a hurry, I throw these ends away and then they just go in the trash. This week, I don't want to use my carrots in the broth. While they would add a lot of vitamins, I want the carrots to be able to bulk up the meals. So I don't want to have to throw a carrot out after it's been cooking in the broth. So I'm using all the ends. You can do this for your onions. You can do this for your celery. Cut off any of the ends that you're not going to put in, and as long as it's not too grimy and gross, you can use it in your broth. You can wash the dirt off the ends of like your carrots and the ends of your celery. But all I'm going to do is cut these into rounds, and we're going to use these for our lunch today. So I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done with this. So the 8 cups of water came to a boil, so I'm adding 2 cups of rice there. I'll add another 2 cups. I have marks on the side, but I don't have a good one to measure 4 cups exactly, so that's why I do it in spurts of 2. Use what you have in your kitchen. So there's another 2 cups of rice. Like I said, I'm going to let it get to a boil again, and then I will just turn it off and it'll sit for 25 minutes, and I'm going to cut the rest of my carrots. So I cut 8 large carrots worth of carrots into rounds. I saved their ends. And I'm adding about a half cup of water. Not an exact science here. I'm going to put the top on, and we're going to put this on the stove on high because we want to steam these carrots for lunch. My rice got back to a boil and I turned it off. So it's just going to sit there for about 25 minutes. I have now rinsed the rest of the carrots, and all I'm going to do is take off the ends to put in my pot for the soup. This again is to make the chicken broth, chicken stock. I don't know the technical difference between the 2 of those, but these ends are not going to be in the soup that you will eat. This will be the soup that the water that is cooked with the chicken to make the broth that we will use for the soup. I will not be eating these ends of the carrots. So I'm saving the regular parts of the carrots that we will cut up to eat in the soup. We're going to make a big pile of scraps for the soup. So, we make chicken broth on a regular basis because it's really nice to have the broth sitting in the freezer so that you can use it whenever you want to make a quick soup. Chicken broth made this way has a lot of flavor, and so even if you're just throwing in, we've even done like a can of chicken and a bag of mixed veggies, like frozen veggies, to make soup, and it comes out great. So you wouldn't want to use the scrap ends of things like cabbage or broccoli or really strong flavors like that to put in your stock pot. But if you are more on the game than I sometimes am, you can save these when you're cutting carrots for a different meal and put them in your freezer, and then when you're ready to make broth, these can be thrown in for another meal. So this one I'm just going to throw in some baby carrots. So this is now carrots I can use for the rest of the week. We're going to take the celery and give it a quick rinse. Those carrots you saw on my cutting board had already had a quick rinse while the video camera was not on. So I'm going to cut a little bit of this stalk off because it looks a little dirty to me. But again, that is still fine to be able to use. If you think back to our forefathers who lived, on the prairie and things like that, I'm sure they ate a lot more dirt than we're used to eating. So I gave it a quick rinse. I'm looking quickly and I'm not seeing dirt in there. So this end is going to go in to be put in our soup. I'm going to stick all of this back into the bag. While I'm saying this, never throw out the leaves and the small pieces on the inside. Those will be used in our soup, the actual soup later. So put these back in the bag for the next time we're using them. And then the onion, as long as the onion doesn't look dirty and look, the last one I had that I was making for the beans looked really bad. Like these inside layers were really soft, and that's why I got rid of those. But these ends can be used in your soup too. Because I don't want to cut up all my onion right now and have cut onion can be really smelly sitting in your fridge, and I'm going to be using the onion over the week. I could just use onion ends, put these back in my fridge. But because I don't want to have them in my fridge all week, I'm using a whole onion for my soup. So this is just going to get thrown in there. This will all get added to the chicken after I cook it after lunch. So we will show you a plate of what our meal looks like for our lunch, and then I'll show you how to put together the broth. For lunch, we had the 8 cooked carrots, like 8 carrots cut up and cooked. We had rice, which I added 3 tablespoons of butter when it was done cooking. Plus we have the chicken that was cooking in the roaster. This is one of the plates of food, and we are having this for lunch. Okay, so after we ate the chicken for lunch, we had, trying to think, there were 11 pieces of chicken. We got chicken off 4 of them for our lunch that you saw with the chicken and the rice and the carrots. This is what was left of chicken from the other things. So this is a 1.5 quart bowl, and it's more than a quart full of chicken. So that, I took all the pieces and I picked off all the chicken we weren't eating, put it in this container. So now it's just the bones and skin and all of that stuff. These were the vegetables that were cut up earlier when I was doing the carrots and stuff. That's all going to get dumped in here. And then I'm going to fill this with water, mostly to the top, and this is going to cook overnight. I'm going to turn it on to about 300, and this is going to go for 24 hours. So 20 hours, 28 hours, doesn't really matter, but around 24 hours, it cooks all the goodness out of the bones. If you want to know more how to make this, there's another video I have on my channel about making homemade stock with the stuff that I would normally put in if we weren't on the low spend week. So you can go look that up. So then for snack today, included in that $75, we are having apples. This is 4 gala apples cut up into pieces with peanut butter that was also bought, and then 3 bananas that were cut up that people can have these as our afternoon snack. So we'll see you in a little bit for dinner.
Hi.
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 So these are the beans that have been cooking all day. We're gonna add Creole seasoning. We don't measure around here.
Now people can add more if they want when they serve it out. You can mash these and make them a little thicker. We're eating them soupy. So we made rice like we made rice before, except Virginia, did you rinse it?
Yeah.
She rinsed the rice to see if we could make rice that was not quite so sticky. And she added about a tablespoon's worth of garlic to this that it cooked in, but cooked the same way we did, where we got it up to a boil and then got it back to a boil after adding the rice and then letting it sit. So all we're going to do is we're going to serve beans on top of the rice. And there's our dinner tonight.